guys, this is Engine Cadet Anulino from ME1A1, and today we will tackle about contemporary global governance. So what are you waiting for? Let's go! What is global governance? According to Benedict 2001 in International Encyclopedia of Social and Behavioral Science, global governance is a purposeful order that emerged from institution, process, norms, formal agreements, and informal mechanisms that regulate action for a common good. Global governance encompasses activity at the international, transnational, and regional levels, and refers to activities in public and private sectors that transcend national boundaries. In these conceptions, global governance cooperative action is based on rights, rules, and that are enforced through a combination of financial and moral incentives in the absence of single authoritative institution or world government structure. Global governance is comprised of elements and methods from both public and private sectors. These basic elements include agreed upon standards involving norms based on shared values and directives issued and enforced by states. Goal of global governance. The goal of global governance is to provide global public goods, particularly peace and security, justice, and mediation system for conflict, functioning markets, and unified standards for trade and industry. Types of global governance. There are 6 types of global governance. First, top-down governance. Second, bottom-up governance. Third, market governance. Fourth, network governance. Fifth, side-by-side governance. Sixth, complex wave governance. Hi guys! In the next video, we can understand more about contemporary global governance.
Global governance or world governance is a movement towards political integration of transnational actors aimed at negotiating responses to problems that affect more than one state or region. It tends to involve institutionalization. These institutions of global governance, the United Nations, the International Criminal Court, the World Bank, etc., tend to have limited or demarcated power to enforce compliance. The modern question of world governance exists in the context of globalization and globalizing regimes of power, politically, economically and culturally. In response to the acceleration of interdependence on a worldwide scale, both between human societies and between humankind and the biosphere, the term global governance may also be used to name the process of designating laws, rules, or regulations intended for a global scale. Global governance is not a singular system. There is no world government, but the many different regimes of global governance do have commonalities. While the contemporary system of global political relations is not integrated, the relation between the various regimes of global governance is not insignificant, and the system does have a common dominant organizational form. The dominant mode of organization today is bureaucratic rational, regularized, codified and rational. It is common to all modern regimes of political power and frames the transition from classical sovereignty to what David Held describes as a second regime of sovereignty, liberal international sovereignty. In a simple and broad-based definition of world governance, the term is used to designate all regulations intended for organization and centralization of human societies on a global scale. Forum for a New World Governance. Reasons for this Forum for a New World Governance. Traditionally, government has been associated with governing, or with political authority, institutions, and, ultimately, control. Governance, however, denotes formal political institutions that aim to coordinate and control independent social relations, and that have the ability to enforce, by force, their decisions. However, authors like James Rosenow have also used governance to denote the regulation of interdependent relations in the absence of an overarching political authority, such as in the international system. Some now speak of the development of global public policy. Adil Najam, a scholar on the subject at the Pardee School of Global Studies, Boston University, has defined global governance simply as the management of global processes in the absence of global government. According to Thomas G. Weiss, director of the Ralph Bunche Institute for International Studies at the Graduate Center, CUNY, and editor, 2005, of the journal Global Governance, a review of multilateralism and international organizations. Single quote: global governance, which can be good, bad, or indifferent, refers to concrete cooperative problem-solving arrangements, many of which increasingly involve not only the United Nations of States but also other ONs, namely international secretariats and other non-state actors. In other words, global governance refers to the way in which global affairs are managed. The definition is flexible as to scope. It applies whether the subject is general, for example global security and order, or specific, for example the WHO Code on the Marketing of Breast Milk Substitutes. It is flexible enough as to reach. It applies whether the participation is bilateral, for example an agreement to regulate usage of a river flowing in two countries, function specific, for example a commodity agreement, regional, for example the Treaty of Tlatelolco, or global, for example the NPT. These cooperative problem-solving arrangements may be formal, taking the shape of laws, or formally constituted institutions for a variety of actors, such as state authorities, intergovernmental organizations, EGOs, non-governmental organizations, NGOs, private sector entities, other civil society actors, and individuals, to manage collective affairs. They may also be informal, as in the case of practices or guidelines, or ad hoc entities, as in the case of coalitions. However, a single organization may nominally be given the lead role on an issue, for example the World Trade Organization, TO, in world trade affairs. Therefore, global governance is thought to be an international process of consensus forming which generates guidelines and agreements that affect national governments and international corporations. Examples of such consensus would include WHO policies on health issues. In short, global governance may be defined as the complex of formal and informal institutions, mechanisms, relationships, and processes between and among states, markets, citizens and organizations, both inter and non-governmental, through which collective interests on the global plane are articulated, duties, obligations and privileges are established, and differences are mediated through educated professionals. Titus Alexander, author of Unraveling Global Apartheid, an overview of world politics, has described the current institutions of global governance as a system of global apartheid, with numerous parallels with minority rule in the formal and informal structures of South Africa before 1991. There are those who believe that world architecture depends on establishing a system of world governance. However, the equation is currently becoming far more complicated. Whereas the process used to be about regulating and limiting the individual power of states to avoid disturbing or overturning the status quo, the issue for today's world governance is to have a collective influence on the world's destiny by establishing a system for regulating the many interactions that lie beyond the province of state action. The political homogenization of the planet that has followed the advent of what is known as liberal democracy in its many forms should make it easier to establish a world governance system that goes beyond market laissez-faire and the democratic peace originally formulated by Immanuel Kant, which constitutes a sort of geopolitical laissez-faire. Another view regarding the establishment of global governance is based on the difficulties to achieve equitable development at the world scale. To secure for all human beings in all parts of the world the conditions allowing a decent and meaningful life requires enormous human energies and far-reaching changes in policies. The task is all the more demanding as the world faces numerous other problems, each related to or even part of the development challenge, each similarly pressing, and each calling for the same urgent attention. But, as Arnold Toynbee has said, our age is the first generation since the dawn of history in which mankind dares to believe it practical to make the benefits of civilization available to the whole human race.
The effect of global governance will allow us to end armed conflict, deal with the new and emerging problems such as technological risk and automation, and to achieve levels of prosperity and progress never seen before. The most important challenge for humanity is to overcome that essential risk. In my own opinion, global governance help those countries who need more help to improve the life of every people in that specific country, in the sense that they are giving funds to the countries who need money to improve their country. So for me, let's be thankful. I hope that you learned in our topic about contemporary global governance. And if you have a question, please leave it in the comment section and I will answer it. And always remember that keep safe and follow the protocols given by the government to have a safer life. And bye bye! Thank you for listening and watching.